must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us. This is Diaspora Dispatches, where I get to bring you the latest from the continent of Africa and indeed across the world. My name is Miriam Gutu. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you are tuned in from across the world. So we will start our broadcast this afternoon from Ethiopia. And at least 7 people have died after heavy rains in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. Rivers burst their banks in the capital, causing flooding. The city mayor, Adanej Abibi, tweeted that the damage to life and property was severe in several areas in the city. Dozens of people were injured and were being treated in different hospitals, according to local media. The mayor expressed her grief for flood victims and said that the city has learned the need to do more to minimize impact of heavy rain during the rainy season. And then we head over to Burkina Faso. The trial of former Burkina Faso President Blaise Compaoré and 13 co-accused over the 1987 assassination of his predecessor Thomas Sankara will start on 11th of October. The trial will be conducted in public. Military prosecutors in Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou, said on Tuesday Mr. Compaoré was forced into exile in 2014 after he attempted to change the law to extend his rule. He currently lives in Ivory Coast and may be tried in absentia. A warrant for his arrest was issued in 2015, but he has always denied involvement in Sankara's assassination. Sankara, often called the African Che Guevara, was a hugely popular leader and has become a cult figure in that country. And then we move over to the Democratic Republic of Congo. The parliament in the DRC has voted to extend the state of emergency in Ituri and North Kivu, the 2 eastern provinces that have been rocked by insecurity. The state of emergency imposed by President Felix Tshisekedi on the 6th of May has been extended 6 times, and now out of the 335 members of parliament, 334 voted in favor, with 1 abstaining. Military administrations have replaced the civilian authorities to curb insecurity in the provinces, where several attacks carried out by the rebels have left thousands dead. The violence has been on the increase despite the presence of thousands of the United Nations peacekeepers. Some of the attacks have been planned on the Allied Democratic Forces, ADF, one of the dozens of armed groups operating there. We go to Mozambique. The United Nations Migration Agency has called for rapid expansion of humanitarian aid and more funding for operations in the northern Mozambican province of Cabo Delgado. Antonio Vitorino, the International Organization of Migration, IOM, director who is on a visit to Mozambique, has said the assistance was needed to support the hundreds of thousands who have fled their homes because of the insecurity in the area. The IOM had visited the district of Metuge, which hosts about 125,000 people, of the more than 800,000 who have been displaced since the end of 2017. The IOM said it had provided assistance to more than 600,000 people in Cabo Delgado between January and July, including through shelter construction or reconstruction support and providing with household items. We go to Nigeria, where Nigeria's state governor has urged citizens to acquire weapons to defend themselves from armed criminal gangs carrying out kidnappings for ransom. Aminu Masari, the governor of the northwestern Katsina state, blamed the citizens for the continued attacks by the armed gangs. He said the attackers were emboldened by what he called people's meek submission to their threats. The governor made the comments on Tuesday during a visit to the town of Jibia, one of the communities affected by the recent violence. Nigeria's defense minister was severely criticized for making similar remarks back in February. Many see these comments by senior officials as public admissions of the government's failure to deal with insecurity and a way of shifting responsibility onto members of the public. Critics say encouraging people to get weapons to confront heavily armed groups may further complicate Nigeria's widespread security problems. In the last couple of years, armed gangs, locally referred to as bandits, have abducted thousands of people including school children, and the violence has seen many people killed and millions have fled from their homes. We shall have that conversation in a short bit. Let me just get through the rest of the news items I have for you this afternoon. And we go to Algeria, where police in Algeria have arrested more people suspected of involvement in the lynching of a man falsely accused of starting forest fires last week. The new arrests mean that more than 40 people have now been detained in various locations over the killing of Jamal Ben Ismail. In videos posted online, a crowd can be seen gathering at a police station where he appeared after hearing he was suspected of involvement. They then pulled him out, beat him and set him on fire. At least 90 people died in days of wildfires in the northern Algeria. The authorities accused Arsonists of starting them. And then we head over to Malawi, and in his first speech since becoming the head of the regional bloc SUDAN, Malawi's president has called on fellow leaders to fight for fair access to coronavirus jabs. President Lazarus Chakwera said Africans had a moral duty to reject a second-class status in the distribution and production of vaccines invented and manufactured in labs where some of the scientists doing such works are Africans. According to the World Health Organization, 31.7% of people worldwide have had at least one of a COVID vaccine, but in low-income countries, it's only about 1.3%. We go back to Nigeria, and police in Nigeria say 7 people have been shot dead at an oil and gas facility in the southeast of the country. 6 of the dead were oil workers, the other a police officer. It is not clear who carried out the attack at Asa in Imo State. Assaults on energy facilities occur regularly in Nigeria, where local communities complain they do not benefit from oil and gas revenues. On Monday, a new oil law was signed whereby companies are required to invest 3% of the operating expenses into community projects. And then we go to Libya, and Libya's election Commission on Tuesday closed its online voter registration portal ahead of the national polls set for December. But beset by growing doubts despite months-long pause in fighting, Commission head Imad Al-Sayed told journalists in Tripoli that some 2.83 million people in the North African country have signed up to vote and invited citizens overseas to register. From Wednesday onwards, Libya, home to some 7 million people, has made tentative steps since last summer towards ending a decade of violent fragmentation, initially sparked by the overthrowing of dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. A UN-brokered ceasefire signed in October between warring eastern and western camps has largely held. Parallel political negotiations have installed a transitional government tasked with leading the country towards national elections set for December 24th. But despite months of relative peace, Libyans remain at odds over when the election should be held, which elections, and on what legal basis. Libya has been without a constitution since Gaddafi scrapped it in 1969. And then we go back to Nigeria. With the Taliban's swift takeover in Afghanistan, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari this week warned that the war on terror is not over but is shifting to Africa. Writing in the Financial Times newspaper, Buhari said Africa needs more than U.S. military assistance to defeat terrorism. It needs investment. The Nigerian president warned in his opinion piece that the U.S. departure from Afghanistan did not mean the so-called war on terror was winding down. He said the threat is merely shifting to a new frontier, and that is Africa. He cited the rising threat of terrorist groups in Africa, from Boko Haram in Nigeria and the Sahel region to Al-Shabaab in Somalia and the rising insurgency in Mozambique. But Buhari lamented that Western allies, bruised by the Middle East and Afghan experiences, were not prioritizing in Africa. But while Buhari praised the U.S. airstrikes in July against Al-Shabaab in Somalia, he emphasized that U.S. military forces on the ground in Africa is not what is needed. He said what Africa needs most is U.S. investment in infrastructure to help provide jobs and economic opportunities for the rapidly growing population. The Nigerian president said that Africa's population has nearly doubled since 2001, the start of the U.S.-led war on terror. He conceded that Nigeria's own homegrown terror group, Boko Haram, was first agitated by lack of opportunities. Is he making excuses for Boko Haram in Nigeria? That sounds like a slap in the wrist. And if you really understand what Boko Haram has been doing, is he making excuses for this terror group in Nigeria? Sounds like it. But we shall have this conversation in a short while. And then we go to South Sudan, where President Salva Kiir has threatened to pull the government delegation out of the Rome peace talks. This is after armed men on Monday morning killed the two revered sisters of the Archdiocese of Juba. 3 other male travelers were also killed in the attack that took place in Kobe area along the Juba-Nimule highway. In a statement issued yesterday, President Kiir blamed the hideout groups for carrying out the attack, although no group has claimed responsibility. He said the act is a violation of the cessation of hostilities agreement signed between the holdout groups and the government in Rome, Italy. The president further stated that the government may reconsider its position on the ongoing St. Gidio Rome initiative. He asserted that the government's pursuit for inclusive peace should never be taken for weakness and used as a window to kill the innocent. The South Sudan Opposition Movement Alliance, led by Thomas Cirillo, Paul Malong and Paganamum, has not made statements on the killings. The St. Gidio-led mediation is aimed at supporting an inclusive peace agreement in South Sudan by persuading the holdout group to join the revitalized peace deal signed in September 2018. And if you know, somebody like General Thomas Cirillo really never signed this peace deal, so he was left out. So they've been trying to get him in and be part of this process. And then still staying with South Sudan, President Salva Kiir has again appealed to the Madi community who fled during the 2016 conflict to return to their homes. The Madi community, indigenous to defunct Pageri County, fled the area to neighboring Uganda following the political crisis. More than 5.5 years since the conflict began, they are yet to return home despite repeated calls by the government for them to do so. They often say insecurity persists along the Juba-Nimule highway, where most of them lived. The now refugees also say their homes have been destroyed, while armed men, including cattle keepers, are still present in the areas. President Kiir reassured the indigenous of the government's commitment to protect and provide services for the returnees. And then we go back to Nigeria, and a group of self-determination activists under the Organization of the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination on Tuesday warned all political parties to stop preparation for the 2023 elections. The alliance stated this at a press conference in Lagos after a 120-day expiration of the constitutional force majeure notice to states in the south and middle belt of Nigeria and 1 million march to the United Nations General Assembly in September. NINAS comprises of self-determination groups in the southwest, south-south, southeast and middle belt. Professor Banji Akintoye, representing the Southwest and Yoruba land and chairperson of NINAS, declared that all lawful means would be used to ensure that the 2023 general election did not hold unless the federal government agreed to hold a referendum for the aggrieved indigenous nationalities to decide whether they wanted a federation known as Nigeria. All right, and then we go to Mali, where Mali's leader, Colonel Assimi Goïta, has given a short address to the nation, justifying the coup he led a year ago. He said the army could not just stand by and watch the growing political crisis and breakdown of governance under President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. Colonel Goïta led a second coup in May, declaring himself president. He had accused the interim government that had been installed after August push, and out of which he was vice president, of seeking to sabotage the transition. He pledged them then that he would return the country to full civilian rule as planned next year. So that is that. The army general there in Nigeria, no, not in Nigeria, but in Mali, but also the former army general, President Buhari, really has a lot to do, and we will get to his sentiments in a bit. But I'd like to look the issue of South Sudan and President Salva Kiir now threatening to withdraw from this peace process that is being mediated by St. Egidio from Rome. All right, so he's saying there are some stakeholders in this peace process who seems to be abusing, and that they're going contrary to what they all had collectively agreed upon, and one of them was, cessation of hostilities, and communal killings have continued. And on Monday, armed men killed two sisters who were known for their good work in helping the community in South Sudan of the Archdiocese of Juba. They were attacked, and another person also on their way in on the Juba-Nimule highway, and they were murdered. So this, President Kiir was not very happy about this. And then while he was speaking about this, he was calling on the Madi community that were displaced from the same region, the Juba-Nimule highway. The residents from there were displaced because of the fightings that have been going on since 2016. And President Kiir is asking the South Sudanese living in these areas to come back, and promising that the government will protect and provide services to the returnees. How, President Salva Kiir? How are you planning to do that? I sit here and I don't even believe that. And these people have firsthand gone through these difficulties and have experienced the insecurity and lack of government presence in this area. And as you speak right now, the army officials, people who were supposed to be, helping with the security of the country, are still somewhere in cantonment sites. They've not passed out yet because there's no finances. So how are you planning to make sure these people are safe? And you're asking them to go back to their homes. A lot of them fled to Uganda, and so they refused to come back since 2016. And President Salva Kiir is now saying you can come back because the government of South Sudan is going to protect you and is going to provide services to any South Sudanese that returns. I know maybe that could be your will, but looking at the situation right now in South Sudan, even I would not believe that. If I was one of these people, I'm not coming back until I see things are working in South Sudan. So, that's not possible. And I don't think those South Sudanese will buy into that. I wanted us to look at the issue of Nigeria and what President Buhari wrote in the Financial Times newspaper. He did an opinion piece, also known as OPED, and he had so much to say, especially after the takeover by Taliban, taking over Afghanistan. And President Buhari, said that this he warned that war on terror is not over, but is shifting to Africa. We already know that, President Buhari. We know the war on terror is not over. It's not even halfway done. We still have so much to do in the world, and places where are plagued with the issue of extremism. So he's saying the war on terror is not over, but is shifting here in Africa. He was writing in the Financial Times paper, as I mentioned there earlier. Now, Buhari said Africa needs more than U.S. military assistance to defeat terrorism. It needs investment. He seems to be having solutions. Remember, we've been calling out President Buhari on this show several times. I think I've done that myself and Dr. Matanga and the rest of the panelists you've had, and the conversation you've had on this platform several times over. And President Buhari's reluctance, even his own people understand. President Buhari has been reluctant in dealing with the growing threat of terrorism in his country, in Nigeria. And he's been very aloof. He's not been involved. In fact, he hardly comments on the issues, and he's been very reluctant in being decisive in how he's dealing with the issue, particularly of Boko Haram in Nigeria. So for him to come here and prescribe a solution, he thinks is what will solve the issue of extremism, for instance, in a country like Nigeria, I think is very interesting. And what he's saying is the Africa does not need the U.S. military assistance. Instead, it needs investment, and that will help in defeating terrorism. Do you not understand that terrorism, a lot of these groups like Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, Taliban now, they are driven by ideology. They are driven by something they believe, as much as there are other factors that make the youth a bit susceptible And of course, lack of jobs and opportunities could be one of them that make them easy to be an easy target by these extremist groups. But it's more than just lack of opportunities, but that is just one of the key factors. And so the Nigerian president warned in his opinion piece that the U.S. departure from Afghanistan did not mean the so-called war on terror was winding down. We know that. He said, the threat is merely shifting to a new front line, and that is Africa. He cited the rising threat of terrorist groups in Africa from Boko Haram in Nigeria and the Sahel region to Al-Shabaab in Somalia and the rising insurgency in Mozambique. But Buhari lamented that Western allies, bruised by their Middle East and Afghan experiences, were not prioritizing in Africa. President Buhari, do you understand why you're the president of Nigeria? Your country has to be a priority, and then after that, your continent. So you cannot expect somebody else to come out from outside and, lay the priorities of your country correct if you don't even have the priorities of your country right. So you're saying because the U.S., perhaps the losses they've suffered and the defeats they've suffered and the chaos they've caused in the Middle East and the other parts of the world, so maybe that has made them not prioritize in Africa. You were supposed to be prioritizing in Africa. You were supposed to be prioritizing, in Nigeria. That's what you're supposed to be doing as a head of state, President Buhari. But while Buhari praised the U.S. airstrikes in July against Al-Shabaab in Somalia, he emphasized that the U.S. military forces on the ground in Africa is not what is needed. He said what Africa needs most is U.S. investment in infrastructure to help provide jobs and economic opportunities for the rapidly growing population. She did not understand your job description, President Buhari. This is what you and your think tank and your ministers and your, and your government, you're supposed to be sitting down and thinking, as Nigerians, with what we have, how can we respond effectively? Even if not fully because of some limitations, but how can we effectively respond to some of these problems or some of these issues that our citizens, want us to respond to? And how do we respond to the issue of, unemployment and economic opportunities? And you're saying now because Africa's population is rapidly growing, it's like that is a problem that now, the U.S. is supposed to be helping Africa solve, which I think is really out of, I don't know. President Buhari seems not to, to recognize what he's supposed to be doing there as the head of state and just lumping this problem to the U.S. and expecting it to solve it. I find it to be, is that your prescription for the problems plaguing Nigeria, for instance, for the U.S. to come and invest in infrastructure and to help provide jobs and economic opportunities for the rapidly growing population? That is USA's job to come and do that to Nigerians. Come on now. And the Nigerian president said the Africa's population has nearly doubled since 2001, the start of the US-led war on terror, and he conceded that Nigeria's own homegrown terror group, Boko Haram, was first agitated by lack of opportunities. You're making excuses for a group that has terrorized your people. You're making excuses for a group that has killed, maimed. You're making excuses for a terrorist group. There's so many other Nigerians who don't have those opportunities, but I've not heard them kill people like that. They're not terrorizing anybody in the country like that. So for President Buhari to write an op-ed on an international platform and try to cover up and try to speak for and try to make excuses for Boko Haram, I think this is unacceptable. No wonder he does not want to deal with the issue of Boko Haram. No wonder he's been very lenient, because he feels whatever they're doing in Nigeria is justified. He's justifying this, this terrorist group and what they've been doing in Nigeria. That's what I get from this, op-ed he did for the Financial Times newspaper. President Buhari justifying why Boko Haram does what he does there in Nigeria. I think that is pretty sad. And still speaking of Nigeria, this other leader, governor his name is Aminu Masari, and he's the governor of the northwestern Katsina state, saying that now citizens need to acquire weapons to defend themselves from armed criminal gangs carrying out kidnappings and ransom. Are you serious? Are these the kind of leaders you have in Nigeria? How are you going to solve a problem by creating more problems? Have you not seen what happened in Libya when citizens were armed and nobody could account for those weapons? Have you seen what Libya has turned into? You cannot arm civilians who have no business carrying these weapons. If the Nigerian government has failed in its work to assure the people of its people that they're safe and they cannot offer them security, then that government has no place. It has no reason to still stay there as the government. So you cannot be asking civilians to take up weapons, to acquire weapons, to protect themselves, and to help them fight against these very deadly, armed groups. And this governor said the attackers were emboldened by what he called people's meek submission to their threats. So you're going to blame the people of Nigeria for the government's failure to protect them. That is what we are doing now, the government of Nigeria. And Nigeria's defense minister was severely criticized, and I think I did that too here in February when he suggested a similar solution to the security crisis in Nigeria. And many see these comments by senior officials as public admissions of the government's failure to deal with the insecurity and a way of shifting responsibility onto members of the public. Critics say encouraging people to get weapons to confront heavily armed groups may further complicate Nigeria's widespread security problems. And that is the truth. Even anybody can see that. Even a child can see that is not, the most wise or the best solution when it comes to, the insecurity in Nigeria. So, interesting. Nigerians, you are in trouble. These are your leaders, and this is how they think. If I was a citizen in that country, let me tell you something. I would not even sleep at night, okay? All right, and another group still in Nigeria, under the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance of Self-Determination, is warning that the country should not go to its 2023 elections without having a referendum. So many groups in Nigeria are seeking to secede from the they're just seeking to secede from Nigeria. They're tired, and they're saying Nigeria is not working collectively, so perhaps everybody needs to just find their country within there and just try to lead out differently from what we see today in Nigeria. Fonsa Sokolium saying Buhari and the Muslim extreme are dancing in jubilation on the okay. All right. Okay, and Bismarck Bure is saying wonders will never, and because we never cease, and because of people in position of public responsibility like a responsible president. I'm telling you, I think that is quite irresponsible even for the Okezi Onyemawu, you're saying Nigerian citizen, if Boko Haram, Fulani herdsmen and other groups decide to take over Nigeria the way Taliban did in Afghanistan, what are you going to do? The soldiers and police, you hope. Okay, you continue saying, and there have been conversations that even in the army itself is divided under religious, lines and things like that. So I think President Buhari should get worried. He should get his act together. And if not, Buhari, you could take a break and let somebody else lead that country who is capable and who at least has a will to address some of these issues plaguing the people of Nigeria. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Diaspora Dispatches. My name is Miriam Mugutu. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace, but peace depends on us.